The prosecution rested after 6.5 weeks of testimony in Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking and racketeering trial. A federal jury in Manhattan has heard R&B singer Cassie Ventura, Combs' ex-girlfriend and the reason for his public downfall, emotionally speak about the humiliating freak-offs she claims she underwent over their 11-year relationship. As the courtroom drama developed, 2 more women stepped forward to relate their stories, each testifying under pseudonyms to protect their identities. One woman, referred to as Mia, told the court about 4 distinct events where she believes Sean Combs physically harmed her. Another witness, Jane, delivered very troubling testimony, describing what prosecutors believe were 3 years of control, manipulation, and exploitation. These heartbreaking testimonials were just part of a trial that's become greater than one guy. Along the way, some of the biggest names in industry were brought into the spotlight, from Britney Spears and Michael B. Jordan to Kid Cudi, and even the late Prince. Their names arose in stories that blurred the boundary between celebrity and scandal. The charges against Combs are severe. Federal prosecutors accuse him of racketeering, conspiracy, trafficking-related offenses, and moving individuals over state lines for exploitative purposes. His arrest back in September represented the climax of months of legal fights, devastating revelations, and rising public pressure. Through it all, Combs has maintained his innocence. His legal team contends that every encounter detailed in court was between consenting adults, and that, while some moments may have turned emotional, they did not rise to the level of the crimes accused. What follows are some of the most dramatic and emotional moments to emerge thus far in this landmark trial. Even in a courtroom filled with tension and trauma, the presence of another high-profile figure briefly stole the spotlight. Ye, the artist formerly known as Kanye West, made headlines once again. This time, not for music, not for fashion, but for his presence at the trial of his longtime friend, Sean Combs. According to insiders, Ye had been officially added to the courtroom's friends and family guest list, a document reserved for those closest to the defendant. But when he arrived during the 5th week of proceedings, he encountered a harsh reality. No one, not even a global superstar, skips the line in federal court. He didn't wait like the rest of the public, one source close to the court said. And just like that, access was denied. Instead of sitting among Combs' family, Ye was directed to a quiet overflow room, 3 floors below the main courtroom. There, he listened to roughly 30 minutes of testimony before slipping out. Will Ye return to support his friend in the trial's final weeks? That remains unclear. But if he does, the seat next to Combs' inner circle is already waiting for him. In May of 2024, the world was stunned. A video, captured by hotel security years earlier, was aired on national television. It showed Sean Combs in a moment of shocking aggression, dragging and striking his former partner, Cassie Ventura, in a hallway. Within days, Combs took to Instagram. In a somber video, he looked into the camera and said, "There's no excuse. I take full responsibility. What I did was wrong, then and now." He claimed to have entered therapy shortly after the 2016 incident and told his millions of followers he was committed to becoming a better man. But what came next would cast doubt on everything. Exactly 1 month after that apology, another woman, testifying under the alias Jane, said Combs harmed her in a violent outburst. She told the court that her face was left bruised, and what followed, she said, was deeply disturbing. According to Jane, Combs leaned in and asked her a chilling question: "Is this coercion?" She claimed he then forced her into taking a pill and pressured her into acts she clearly did not want to take part in. "Take this pill. You're not ruining my night," she recalled him saying as she cried out, refusing. Her words in court painted a harrowing image of control, manipulation, and fear. Federal prosecutors alleged that both Jane and Ventura were victims of sex trafficking, not through chains or cages, but through psychological pressure, false promises, and repeated threats. What's more, Jane says that when the CNN video became public, Combs quickly huddled with his team, not to take accountability, but to control the narrative. According to her testimony, he claimed it was the only time things got physical with Ventura and blamed her instead. She was the one who hit, he allegedly told his inner circle. But in court, witnesses have described something far different. More than a dozen separate incidents where Combs allegedly became physically abusive toward Ventura between 2008 and 2018. The question looms large. Was the apology sincere, or just part of the damage control? One testimony shook the courtroom, not just because of what was said, but because of what it might reveal about how far Sean Combs was willing to go to keep certain things hidden. A former security guard, Eddie Garcia, testified that back in 2016, Combs pulled out a paper bag filled with $100,000 in cash. Methodically, he ran stacks of $10,000 bundles through a money counter, one after another. Then, Garcia says, Combs handed him the bag not as a gift, but as a payment. What was he paying for? According to the witness, it was for a USB drive, a thumb drive that held a 15-minute video from the hallway of a luxury hotel in Los Angeles. The same footage, Garcia says, that showed Combs in a physical altercation with his then-partner, Cassie Ventura. Eddie, my angel, Garcia recalled Combs saying, something like this would ruin me. For years, the video stayed buried, but nearly a decade later, a surviving copy surfaced, aired by CNN. And it quickly became one of the most powerful pieces of evidence in the entire trial. Prosecutors argue that this isn't just about silencing a scandal. They say the video reflects something much more serious, an alleged pattern of coercion and control behind closed doors. And legally, that single clip could be used to support multiple charges. Offering a bribe, attempting to cover up evidence, and pressuring someone into something against their will. Each of those elements could help prosecutors build their case under the federal racketeering statute, a charge that requires proof of multiple criminal acts tied together in a broader scheme. Together with other allegations, that video could also help support the most serious accusation Combs faces, one that carries the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. From a paper bag of cash to a courtroom spotlight, the truth behind that footage may be what decides everything. As the trial moved forward, the courtroom heard one of the most emotional and heart-wrenching testimonies yet. A woman referred to only as Mia, a former personal assistant to Sean Combs, stepped up to the witness stand. Her voice was quiet, almost trembling, as she described what she says happened to her during her years working inside Combs' inner circle. Between 2009 and 2017, Mia says she endured 4 deeply traumatic incidents at the hands of the music mogul, 2 of them inside his luxurious Beverly Hills estate. In one of the most shocking moments of her testimony, she described waking up in the staff quarters to find Combs on top of her. "Be quiet," she recalled him whispering. Mia told jurors she felt completely powerless, trapped by fear, by silence, and by the influence Combs held over her life and career. "I knew his power, and I knew his control over me," she said. Her words painted the picture of a young woman caught in a world she couldn't escape. A world that felt like her only lifeline. "I didn't want to lose everything I'd worked so hard for. This life, it was all I had left." In that moment, the courtroom fell silent. And for those watching, Mia's words weren't just testimony, they were a window into a world few had ever seen. One of the most strange and haunting instances revealed in the trial took place at the home of a legend, the late Prince. According to evidence from Combs' former personal assistant, known in court as Mia, she and Cassie Ventura reportedly slipped away to attend a private party at Prince's Los Angeles estate. Word had circulated that the music icon himself would be performing a rare, intimate show. Cassie turned it a once-in-a-lifetime night. As Prince played Under the Stars, they danced over a dazzling, purple-lit pool, a piece of glass erected right over the water, with music filling the air and magic in every way. But the dream didn't last. Mia told the court she instantly observed someone entering the venue. A bucket hat, a glance, and then instant horror. It was Combs. "Me and Cass just booked it," she added. They rushed through Prince's house and out into the forested area near the property, hoping to escape silently. But it was too late. According to Mia, Combs caught up to Ventura and proceeded to physically assault her outside the party, until Prince's security stepped in. But the violence didn't end there. Later that night, Ventura testified, the torture continued in her hotel room. She recounted waking the next day with apparent injuries, bruises on my face, knots on my head. This wasn't just a narrative about a party gone wrong. For the jurors, it was another example of a trend, one where even a night designed for celebration, surrounded by music royalty, turned into something sad and traumatic. And with every fresh witness, the case against Combs seemed to increase not only in legal weight, but in emotional gravity. As week 3 of the trial began, yet another former insider stepped forward, and what she shared sent shockwaves through the courtroom. Capricorn Clark wasn't just an assistant. Over time, she rose to become one of Sean Combs' top marketing executives. But behind the scenes, Clark says the pressure and control ran far deeper than the job description. On the stand, she recalled a terrifying night in December 2011. That night, she says, Combs showed up at her home, furious and unannounced, after learning about Cassie Ventura's brief romantic connection with rapper Kid Cudi. Clark testified that Combs was outraged, not just at Ventura, but at her, for not telling him sooner. According to her account, he stormed up to her door and demanded she come with him that instant. Get dressed, she remembers him saying, "We're going." In her words, she didn't feel like she had a choice. Tearfully, Clark described it to the jury as being kidnapped. Combs then drove her, still fuming with rage, to Kid Cudi's residence. The way he was acting. "I just felt like anything could happen," she said. It was a chilling moment in the courtroom and a glimpse, according to prosecutors, into how fear, intimidation, and unchecked control played out behind the celebrity facade. Was it a one-time outburst? Or, as the prosecutors allege, part of a broader pattern of manipulation? The jury will decide, but Capricorn Clark's voice, like many others in this trial, added another brick to the growing wall of disturbing claims. Before Cassie, Kim Porter, and the hotel rituals. Long before the disturbing events described by Cassie Ventura, there were signs, at least according to some witnesses, of a very particular lifestyle unfolding behind closed doors. Capricorn Clark, a former personal assistant to Sean Combs, painted a vivid picture of those earlier years. Between 2004 and 2006, Clark says she was often the one tasked with preparing luxury hotel rooms for Combs and his then-partner, the late Kim Porter, a beloved model and the mother of 4 of Combs' children. Clark described setting the stage, expensive candles, luxury oils, and in some cases, party substances. These hotel stays, she said, weren't just overnight visits. They would often last for days, in cities like Los Angeles, New York, and Atlanta. The aftermath, she recalled, was a mess, quite literally. There were handprints and oil on the ultra-suede walls, she testified. It was just a lot of baby oil, everywhere. But was this the same behavior that Ventura would later describe? The so-called freak-offs that she claimed became routine, coercive, and deeply damaging? Not quite, say those who knew Kim Porter best. Suzanne Kimberly Bracker, Porter's former family attorney, pushed back strongly in an interview with Business Insider. He was madly in love with Kim, Bracker said. There's no way he would have ever shared her with another man. She added that Combs was possessive when it came to Porter, insisting he wouldn't even tolerate the idea of her living in an apartment where his children were in one room and another man could be in the next. It's a complex picture. On one side, long-time loyalty and deep emotion. On the other, testimonies hinting at a pattern, one that would become darker and more public in the years to come. Could these early glimpses have foreshadowed something more? Or were they simply misunderstood moments from a deeply private relationship? As the trial presses on, the lines between personal indulgence and abusive control continue to blur, and the jury is being asked to decide where the truth lies. The break-in and the burning Porsche. December 2011. The holiday lights of Los Angeles glittered in the hills, but inside one home, something far more disturbing was unfolding. Rapper Kid Cudi, real name Scott Mescudi, took the stand in Sean Combs' federal trial and dropped one of the most dramatic bombshells yet. According to his sworn testimony, Combs had broken into his Hollywood Hills home in a jealous rage. The alleged reason? A brief romance between Cudi and Cassie Ventura, the very relationship that prosecutors claim ignited Combs' fury. When Cudi returned home, he said he knew something was wrong immediately. The Christmas gifts he had lovingly prepared for his family had been torn open. His dog, Shaken, was found locked inside the bathroom. And then came the call. "Mother ***, or you in my house?" Cudi recalled shouting over the phone, convinced Combs had been there. But by the time he arrived, the house was empty. And just when it seemed things couldn't escalate further, they did. 2 weeks later, Cudi's luxury Porsche, parked safely in his own driveway, went up in flames. An act of random vandalism? Or something more calculated? Prosecutors don't think it was random at all. In court filings, they allege that the vehicle was intentionally destroyed, that someone had cut through the convertible top and tossed in an incendiary device, igniting the blaze from the inside out. They say this wasn't just revenge, it was part of a larger, organized effort by Combs and his associates to intimidate and retaliate. A puzzle piece in the broader racketeering case that now threatens to send him away for life. Was this truly a warning? A message? And if so, just how far would the man once known as Diddy go to silence his rivals? A mother's rage. Sometimes, The people who can see abuse the clearest are the ones watching from the outside. Regina Ventura, Cassie's mother, took the witness stand with a heavy heart. But she didn't speak in abstract terms. She spoke from what she saw, what she lived. She described 2 moments, years apart, that left her fearing not only for her daughter's safety, but for her life. The first was Christmas, 2011. Cassie had come home to Connecticut to spend the holidays with family. But something was off. Regina noticed a large, dark bruise on her daughter's back. Earlier in the trial, Cassie had revealed the origin of that injury, a violent altercation with Sean Combs, sparked by jealousy over her rumored connection to rapper Kid Cudi. She said he kicked her to the ground during a heated confrontation. And now, her mother was confirming it, not just the injury, but the pain behind it. Then came 2016, just before Cassie's 30th birthday. According to Cassie, Combs had taken her phone after discovering a romantic text exchange with an unnamed NFL player. That night, Cassie came home to her apartment shaken and without her phone. Her mother was visiting from out of town and instantly knew something wasn't right. Regina Ventura made a decision in that moment, a decision many mothers make when fear turns to fury. She called the police. Then she marched outside to confront the man she believed was threatening her daughter's freedom and her peace. "I was yelling and screaming and trying to hit him," she testified. "He had to give it back," she added, referring to the stolen phone. But the tension, the fear, the chaos, none of that could be returned or undone. Was it the act of a protective parent, or a glimpse into just how dangerous things have become behind closed doors? As more voices speak up, one thing becomes painfully clear. This wasn't just one woman's story, it was a pattern playing out in real time. The private jet incident. In the world of the rich and powerful, a private jet symbolizes status, exclusivity, and control. But in 2015, according to one former assistant, that symbol of luxury became the stage for something far more disturbing. George Kaplan was just 23 years old, a fresh face in the entertainment industry, working under one of its most influential figures, Sean Combs. He thought he'd made it, until a flight to Las Vegas changed everything. Kaplan testified that somewhere over the desert skies, the air in the jet's cabin turned cold, not from altitude, but from something more terrifying. He said it began with screams, then the unmistakable sound of glass shattering. He turned toward the bedroom of the plane, and what he saw would stay with him forever. Sean Combs, standing over Cassie Ventura, holding a whiskey glass. Cassie, cowering on the bed, terrified. And then, her voice, raw and desperate, cut through the jet's luxury silence. "Isn't anybody seeing this?" Kaplan did see it. And then, he said, he looked away. The prosecutor asked, "And after you looked away, what did you hear?" Kaplan's answer: "Further glass crashing and chaos. No one intervened. Not the staff. Not the security. No one even checked on her after Combs left the bedroom," according to Kaplan. He explained his silence with painful honesty. "I was 23 years old. All I wanted was a great job in the entertainment industry." For him, this moment, and others like it, became unbearable. Eventually, Kaplan walked away from the job. But that night in the air, the silence said more than words ever could. How many others were on that flight? How many people saw and looked away? And the question lingers. When power shields a man from consequences, who pays the price? Los Angeles. 4 a.m. A quiet parking lot at Mel's Drive-In, where the night was supposed to end with cheeseburgers. Instead, it nearly reignited one of the most dangerous rivalries in hip-hop history. David James, a former personal assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, took the witness stand and described a scene that felt ripped straight from a gangster film. He was behind the wheel of Diddy's silver Lincoln Navigator. The city was asleep, but the ghosts of the East Coast-West Coast feud weren't. In the same parking lot sat Suge Knight, co-founder of Death Row Records, a name forever linked to violence, intimidation, and the unsolved murder of the notorious B.I.G. Combs' longtime bodyguard, Damian D-Rock Butler, spotted him first. The two locked eyes. "What are you doing in my city?" Knight allegedly asked. And just like that, the tension snapped. James testified that he and D-Rock saw someone hand a firearm to Suge Knight. Then, four SUVs swarmed the lot, positioning themselves like it was a tactical operation. D-Rock gave a single order: drive. Now, they sped back to Combs' Hollywood Hills mansion. No mention of whether the burgers made it into the car. But what came next was something even more chilling. James said Combs was furious. Ignoring Cassie Ventura's tearful protests, Combs grabbed 3 guns and demanded they head back to Mel's. James, still shaken, drove. When they got there, Suge Knight was gone. But something else had shifted, at least for David James. It was the first time I realized my life was in danger. He would resign soon after, walking away from the lifestyle he once thought was untouchable. Because in that moment, he said, it became clear. This wasn't just entertainment anymore. It was survival. It started with a simple question. Where's my F***ing egg? That's what Donny Kane singer Don Richards says Sean Diddy Combs shouted in 2009 as he stormed into the kitchen of his Los Angeles mansion. What followed, she told jurors, was a brutal, terrifying outburst. Richard testified that Combs picked up a hot skillet, eggs still sizzling, and tried to strike Cassie Ventura in the head. She fell to the ground, and from there, it escalated. Punches. Kicks. Ventura curled into a fetal position on the kitchen floor. Then Combs grabbed her by the hair and dragged her up the stairs. From the third floor, Dawn Richards says she heard only glass shattering and screaming. The next morning, everything changed. Or rather, it was forced to appear normal. In the first floor recording studio, Combs sat both women down. According to Richard, he told them, "What you saw, that was passion. That's what love looks like." Then came the words that chilled her to the bone. "Where I come from, people go missing if they talk." And just like that, he handed them flowers. Richard later said she believed that wasn't a metaphor. It was a threat, a reminder, a warning. Defense attorneys pushed back hard. They called it a lie, a fabrication. Ms. Ventura never mentioned this, Combs' attorney argued. And it's true. Richard admitted she didn't tell prosecutors about the threat until May 2024, despite multiple interviews. But silence doesn't always mean peace. In many stories of power, control, and fear, silence is survival. Sometimes, the smallest things became explosive. A phone not answered. A bathroom visit that took too long. That's what prosecutor Emily Johnson told jurors as she painted a chilling picture of daily life behind the closed doors of Sean Diddy Combs' world. Cassie Ventura, she said, was punished violently for acts as ordinary as stepping away for a moment. He beat her when she didn't answer the phone, Johnson told the courtroom. He beat her when she left one of his so-called freak-offs without permission. He beat her for taking too long in the bathroom. Cassie's former best friend, Carrie Morgan, backed that story up with personal, heartbreaking testimony. It was 2013. They were vacationing in Jamaica, a moment that should have been peaceful. Cassie went to the bathroom, and that's all it took. "She's taking too long," Combs muttered. Moments later, Morgan said she heard a scream, one she called guttural, terrifying. She ran toward the sound and saw the horror. "He was dragging her by her hair," Morgan said. "He threw her down. Her head hit the paving bricks. She didn't move. I thought she was knocked out. It wasn't a one-time incident." Cassie herself had already testified to 6 separate beatings over the years, each one leaving her injured. She described one of the worst in 2009 after a party at the Ace of Diamonds nightclub. All it took was her speaking to a music producer. "Slut. Bitch." That's what she says Combs called her. Then came the fists and kicks, all in the backseat of a chauffeured SUV. She tried to hide under the seat. She begged him to stop. When the car finally arrived at Combs' rented mansion, she said he ordered her to disappear. "Stay in a hotel. Don't let anyone see you. Wait for the bruises to heal." A decade-long relationship built on fear, violence, and control. And for too long, the silence around it held. After years of accusations and mounting legal pressure, Sean Diddy Combs knew the clock was ticking. In September, as the feds closed in, Combs quietly checked into one of New York City's most luxurious hotels, the Park Hyatt in Midtown Manhattan. His legal team claimed he was there in case authorities requested a voluntary surrender. But what federal agents actually found in that suite raised more questions than answers. On May 16th, the prosecution's fourth witness, Special Agent Yassine Binda, took the stand to reveal what Homeland Security investigators uncovered inside Combs' private room. Among the items photographed and logged, a duffel bag containing clear bottles of baby oil, 3 more bottles of baby oil in the bathtub, 2 bottles of personal lubricant beside them. Another nightstand drawer held even more lube, along with a prescription pill bottle hiding 2 small baggies of pink powder. On the floor of the living room, a massive blue party light, just like the ones Cassie Ventura testified were used to light up his so-called freak-off sessions. The pink powder? According to prosecutors, similar bags had already been seized in previous raids, and tested positive for ecstasy and other narcotics. This wasn't just a room waiting for an arrest. It looked like the remains of a lifestyle prosecutors say Combs had spent years building, hiding, and violently protecting. A high-rise hotel suite filled with quiet evidence, now echoing in a courtroom and under the nation's spotlight. As the trial neared its midpoint, Cassie Ventura returned to the stand, and what came next wasn't just emotional testimony, it was financial. The defense asked Ventura about the money, the settlements, the lawsuits, and what she's been paid since stepping away from Diddy's world. First, she revealed she was about to receive a $10 million settlement from the Intercontinental Hotel in Century City. Why? Because in 2016, that hotel was the scene of one of the most damning pieces of evidence in the entire case. A surveillance camera inside the hotel hallway captured Combs viciously assaulting Ventura as she tried to escape one of his so-called freak-off sessions. The footage, which had been hidden for years, was finally shown to jurors at the start of the trial. It wasn't just disturbing. It was undeniable. Prosecutor Emily Johnson revealed during her opening statement that after the incident, Combs paid a hotel security guard $100,000 in cash handed over in a brown paper bag to suppress the footage. But it didn't stay buried forever. In 2023, when CNN obtained and released the video, the public finally saw what had long been whispered about behind closed doors. Combs issued a public apology, calling his behavior inexcusable. But by then, Cassie had already settled a massive civil suit against him, a separate $20 million payout, which she confirmed on the stand. $30 million. That's the combined amount Ventura is walking away with. But the emotional cost and the decade of violence can't be measured in dollars. These settlements may bring closure, but they also raise questions. How long did people know? And how much was paid to keep them silent? Amidst the brutality, the trauma, and the fear, the trial revealed something else. The glitzy, star-studded facade that surrounded Diddy and Cassie's relationship from the very beginning. It was May 15th, day 3 of Ventura's testimony. On cross-examination, the defense brought up her 21st birthday party in 2007, a bash held at a Las Vegas club, thrown by none other than Sean Diddy Combs. Ventura described the party as a pivotal moment. Not only was she freshly signed to Combs' label, it was that night, in a club bathroom, where she says Combs kissed her without consent, launching a relationship that would later become a storm of control and violence. But it wasn't just the intimacy that shocked jurors. It was the guest list. Britney Spears, Michael B. Jordan, record producer Dallas Austin. Celebrities, big names, orbiting around this young woman's life because, as Ventura plainly said, that was all him. Combs could bring anyone into a room. He had power. He had access. And that access allowed him to shape not just a career, but a narrative. Fast forward to 2015. Ventura is older now, more independent, and Combs, more paranoid. The defense asked Ventura about Michael B. Jordan again, not as a guest, but as a perceived rival. Combs, she testified, became suspicious that she was having an affair with the actor. Is Michael B. Jordan a celebrity? The defense asked. Ventura responded dryly with just a hint of sarcasm. I would say so. But beneath the laughter in the courtroom, the message was clear. Combs' jealousy wasn't reserved for the unknown. It extended to Hollywood A-listers. No one was too famous to escape his suspicion. And no one, not even Cassie, surrounded by stars, was ever truly safe. It was May 13th, day 1 of Ventura's most harrowing testimony. She sat in front of the jury, voice steady, but eyes heavy. She wasn't under any illusions anymore. But back in 2007, she was just 21, and in love. I was just in love and wanted to make him happy, she told the courtroom. But what Diddy wanted was far from normal. He called it voyeurism, a sexual encounter where he would sit and watch her as another man had sex with her. At first, she hesitated. She was scared, but she said nothing, because love, in that moment, felt like compliance. I didn't want to upset him if I said it scared me, or if I said anything aside from, okay, let's try it. It didn't stop there. Federal prosecutors told the jury that over time, Combs trained her not only to participate in these freak-offs, but to organize them, booking the male escorts, arranging the hotels, following his demands down to the lighting, the cameras, the body oil. Ventura testified that he recorded everything, that he was obsessed with control. But then came the most gut-wrenching detail. He would urinate on me and ask the escorts to do the same. She said through tears. It was disgusting. It was too much. It was overwhelming. I choked. This wasn't love. This wasn't sex. This was submission, packaged as affection, reinforced by fear. And this was just the beginning.